Hello and welcome to the Metapod podcast, the Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I'm Jake, that's Sean, brought to you here another good week by us. We brought this week to you, I guess. Anyway, Sean, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Jake. It was a long week. It's been, but it's a good week. It's a good week. I've learned a new card game, thanks in
Yeah,
part to you. And I had probably the best pull in my Pokemon year, at least thus far. So it's good
yeah.
stuff.
Wait, what card? You can't just say I had the best pull in Pokemon for the last year and then not show the audio or the visual. Well, you got to show everybody what it is. Oh
It,
man, the glare.
the glare on this card,
It's so
but
shiny.
it's the Lilius Clefairy EX SIR. I had one pack today at my locals. It was in the there's like a binder slash one pack like little thing
Mhm.
that they gave us today. And in my one pack, that was my hit. And I was like, yo, these
So for
mini
anyone
binders are juiced.
So for anyone that's curious, Sean will not be going gambling
No.
anytime soon because he just used up all his luck. Speaking of which, I actually went gambling for the first time ever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after living in Vegas for like 2 years because
Yeah.
my old job, I couldn't like go in casinos and stuff like that. Like I literally
Because you
signed a
worked in
contract that was
sports.
like
Yeah.
yeah, because I worked in sports and I don't really have an itch to gamble anyways. But like the other weekend, some of my family members visited, like extended families, and they like gambling. And so we were on Old Vegas, if you know what that is, like Fremont Street, it's called Old Vegas and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Downtown,
there's a
right?
casino. Yeah, there's a casino nearby that they were staying at, and they were like, "Oh, just gamble for a little bit." And so they gave me $20, not my money but they gave me $20 and I walked away with 5 cents. So,
I mean that I think that's pretty standard practice in Vegas,
I
honestly.
just and plus I just played the button games where you're just like, "Button, did I win or not? Button, did I
And it's
win or
very
not?" I didn't try
shiny.
to play Yeah, I didn't try to play, like, really blackjack or Texas Hold'em or whatever the other games are. There was no Balatro, unfortunately, at the casino that I could play.
I will say those like proper style gambling games, like not the roulette machines or whatever, but those
Yeah.
proper ones, they usually have buy-ins that like
Yeah.
are like at least on the strip, those buy-ins will be like 15 or $20. It's kind of like, oh, it's a lot of money just to see with one hand. But I know if you go downtown, like I stayed at the Golden Nugget many years
Mhm.
ago. I loved it because downtown was great. You could walk everywhere. It's like a cool it was
It's
at
a pretty
least.
good city, yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. Whereas the strip, it's like once you go into one casino, it's like, oh, I want to go to another one, and it's like, yeah, it's a 20-minute walk. You know, each casino's got
Yeah.
like their own thing, but like, yeah, it's
The only time I've really ever gone to casinos beforehand was to go to, like, the movie theater, when my girlfriend and I wanna go see a movie or something, and
yeah.
I go through and I have, like, a not UNLV hoodie or whatever, and I've got my hat pulled low, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Nobody's around that I know, right?" But anyways,
I like how you
this
say
is
we
a
don't gamble, and
yeah.
yet we do Pokemon cards, Jake. I mean,
No,
like,
that's what people they're like, "Oh, do you gamble, like, now that you live in Vegas for 2 years?" And I'm like, "No, because I open card packs," and that's like it's like the same thing.
yeah,
Right? Like, a booster box, sure, a booster box has, like, some guaranteed hits, but, like, I've opened up a Pokemon box where Pokemon's not guaranteed, I think, in English, but, like, I've opened up a Pokemon box where I get, like, $20 of value back
yeah.
in, like, the Vs, EXs, all that stuff, and, like,
Or you
I don't
open your
like
Pokemon
opening.
Center ETB and just get
Yeah,
nothing.
I did get a Sao Sao Noibat in that though for the Sao Sao binder. So all I'm missing now from Sao Sao is a common and Gengar VMAX, which I don't know if I'll ever own. But anyways, this Pokemon TCG podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about the news and also Champions League Miyagi. There's nothing really happening until Atlanta in our current format out here in the West. So taking a look at some of the other news that's been going on in Asia and some tournaments, reveals, etc. So One thing that we do want to do, especially for our collector base, right? If you have listened to the podcast the last couple of months, we talked a little bit about Chinese Pokemon cards, right? We talked about 151 when that came out with the exclusive alternate versions of Pikachu and things like that. And I opened some up. It's actually really cool. Highly recommend if you can get it cheap. But the upcoming set, Fearless Terrastal in China, it's going to be the next Scarlet and Violet set. Basically, like for China, if you do not know, is like they're trying to catch up China to the rest of the world. So they're like combining multiple English sets essentially, or like bits and pieces, like more than we combined from Japan. They're trying to combine and condense and try to catch us up or catch China up to
Yep.
the rest of the world. So Fearless Terror Stole is going to be their next Scarlet and Violet set in the middle of May. Going to be the third Scarlet and Violet set with Scarlet and Violet through Paldea Evolved, and maybe also some Obsidian Flames type cards in here. So they're actually pretty close.
Yeah.
I feel like they're not that far off.
They'll probably catch up at least by the end of the year or early next year is my guess. Given the speed at
Yeah.
which like in 2 years to go from or 3 years to go from Sun and Moon all the way to now is like that's crazy. So,
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see them catch up, especially when we talk about world championships and stuff like that.
yeah.
But one thing that is cool in this set that they revealed is that there's going to be a special illustration rare Arcanine EX. And you may be thinking, like, oh, why does that matter? That's because this Arcanine EX special illustration rare is actually going to be exclusive to China, right? It's not, well, at least it's not confirmed exclusive,
I
but it's
mean,
an art that is not anywhere else in the world, not revealed in any other product or anything like that, promo. So it's more than likely going to stay in China. So wanted to give that a quick shout out for any collectors out there, especially, some big Gen 1 collectors. This is a really, really cool promo, I think, of the Arcanine EX if you're looking to add to the collection.
I will also say like looking at the Chinese arts too, I'm amazed at how short the names for the Pokemon are here.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's simplified Chinese, so the characters are just very different. And I will say, as a designer, it probably is like much nicer to design for simplified Chinese than it is for like English, especially or some other languages where it's like I'm having to squeeze like Galarian, Hisuian, Zoroark V onto like this tiny little box. So
Yeah, because like, I mean, with English at least, you have Galarian, which is in super small letters,
yeah,
right? Because it doesn't fit all in the line. But in simplified Chinese, it's different where all the pardon my lack of under or knowledge, on
yeah,
Chinese, but it's like all the characters are the same font size,
yeah,
basically.
and they can all
There's
fit
not
much
like a
easier.
difference. Yeah, they can all fit. And like all of the cards that we're looking at, there's still like at least a third of that area. Like Fortress is probably the longest name
Hmm.
of the reveals, and it's like there's still a third of space left
Yeah.
on that line. So that is a that is a funny thing that I did not notice.
But yeah, it's definitely like, it's cool seeing all of the special arts that are coming to China. And it's one of those things too where like, you could imagine someone someday being like, "Oh, like maybe it's hard to collect in English and Japanese just feels like you've got 30 years of cards." But at least in simplified Chinese now, like if you wanted to start a collection, getting all the Chinese exclusives is not that hard at the moment, for the most part. So like, it's a cool little thing if you want to have a new goal as a collector, I think.
It Yeah, it's always nice having collections because there's no wrong way to collect, especially. And if you're excited about collecting Team Rocket stuff here in the near future, there was a batch of Team Rocket cards that were revealed during the Miyagi Champions League, which we'll talk about some of the results later on that one. This, if you do not know, Glory of Team Rocket is the Japanese set coming out on April 18th. So, here in a couple of weeks, and is going to be a part of the Destined Rivals set out in the West in May 30th. And usually we only save these cards for like the set review time. but especially because it was a little bit of a slow news week for, English, and also, I think some of these cards are, like, kinda interesting. I told Sean, I was like, "Can we please talk about these?" Because there's already some crazy ones, right? We've already talked about some of the reveals where it's like, it's the item that searches for Guzma,
Yep.
right? Or
Yep.
whatever it was. And there's some crazy combos in there already. So some of these other cards are like, wow, they're trying
Yeah.
to make Team Rocket pretty good. So, Sean, if we could talk real quick about the Moltres EX for Team Rocket, real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this Moltres EX basic 220 HP Pokemon. It's got two attacks. I don't think the first attack is even worth mentioning, to be frank.
No, just do the second one.
The
Just do the
second
second
attack
one.
though is crazy. For a fire triple colorless, it says Evil Burn. Discard a Team Rocket's energy. So for those who don't remember, Team Rocket's energy last week provides 2 energy of dark and or psychic typing in any combination, but it is a special energy. But you have to discard
Mhm.
specifically that special energy from this Pokemon. If you do, discard your opponent's active Pokemon and all attached cards. Yikes. Yikes.
It's not KO'd,
No.
right? So, thankfully, you're not going to
Doesn't
like,
give up
it's
any
not like
prizes.
a yeah, it's not like a Roaring Moon EX, like, kind of KO type thing, but it's discarding the active Pokemon, and we have stuff like Spadops that's coming in the set, right? That it can accelerate energies onto your Pokemon. So I don't know, Evil Burn might be like a really funny thing that can happen every once in a while. Can't KO the Pokemon because it's too big, too tall, whatever. Eh, just discard it.
I will say it's a kind of weird thing to be like, can't KO the Pokemon, and yet I'm staring down the barrel of Mewtwo's Team Rocket, of Team Rocket's
Mhm.
Mewtwo that could do 280 base, and I'm like, what do you mean you can't knock that? We have maximum belt. What are we doing here, guys? What are so?
Yeah.
I do wonder where this will see play because it's a crazy attack, but they have balanced it by saying you have to discard the Team Rocket's energy specifically. And I don't know, Jake. Do we have any? Because Roseanne's backup rotates, right?
Yeah, I think it did rotate because it's Brilliant Stars.
So I don't know if we have any. And did Silene rotate as well?
Silene also rotated, yeah, because it was like the same set as Irida, I
So I
think.
yeah, I don't know if we have a way to get back um special energy once you've discarded them. So this does have a very limited use. Like you've got
No, I'm
yeah.
you never know. Maybe it'll come in some other form or fashion, but, moving into the Articuno, I think this was the bird that kinda made the most noise, at least that I saw on social media.
Mhm.
Team Rocket's Articuno is 120 HP basic water type Pokemon, so little baby Pokemon, but it has an ability Resistant Veil. Its ability says prevent all effects of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks done to your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. So basically, right? It also says damage is not an effect.
Correct. Damage is not an effect of an attack, but something
Yes.
like
Dragapult?
Dragapult. Yes, it stops
Yes.
Dragapult on basics.
Yeah, and with a lot of basic Pokemon in this format, especially with Team Rockets, we talked about the Mewtwo, right? And I'm sure there will be maybe some more in the future. This Articuno is a great protection effect on those Pokemon.
Yeah, I think this is like between this and the new Shaman that's coming out in Heatwave Arena, it's like if you are playing a Team Rockets deck, you will have basically the best way to stop any sort of snipe damage spread decks in the format, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I will also say though, what's weird, and I'm reading this now, the effect of Team Rocket's Moltres discards your active Pokemon. That is an effect of an attack. So if your opponent, if you're in a mirror match, you actually, and you have both have the Articuno, you actually can't Team Rocket's Moltres your opponent's active basic.
Yeah, it has to be a basic Rockets Pokemon in
Yep.
the active, that they're trying to discard. But yeah, some weird interactions in the kind of mirror, I
Yeah.
would say. Both Articuno and Zapdos have there's a Moltres Articuno and Zapdos, right? But
Yep.
The Articuno and Zapdos, they're both 120 HP basics. The both have an attack which is water or lightning, colorless, right? Based on what typing they are. And they have a 60 plus attack that if they have Team Rocket's energy attack, it does, or attached, it does 60 more damage. So a 3 energy, 120 attack. Not sure if it matters, but
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, they'll be interesting. Like, you know, these could see play. It just, those are going to really depend on the meta of like, is there something that's water weak? Is there something that's lightning weak that like it matters? The Articuno obviously has more usefulness in different circumstances, but it's cool to see. I think I can't wait to see the illustration rares and the SIR for these because you know they're going to be getting that treatment. So,
Yeah, it's gonna be absolutely crazy. We already had one like Articuno chasing, what was it, Journey Together? I bet we have another
yeah.
one.
One that I think is pretty interesting, Jake,
Mhm.
largely because I think it could be really interesting and expanded in theory. So the coughing has an ability. If it's in the active spot and is damaged by an attack, you can search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon with coughing in their name and put them onto your bench. I mention that because things like Galarian coughing, right? Like I think that's a Pokemon. Like that also has coughing in its name. So if you think
Yeah.
about expanded, you have coughing, Team Rocket's coughing, Galarian coughing. There might be more. Um, that's pretty neat because it pairs well with Team Rocket's Wheezing, Jake, that has All Out Explosion. It does 40 for each Pokemon in play with coughing or wheezing in its name. And I'm like,
Yeah, so if you can, get all 4 of them out, right, and maybe even cheat out some others, like, if there's a way ever to, just cheat out the stage 1 wheezing and you don't have to evolve from coughing, especially in expanded with Prism Star Ditto,
yeah,
right, that's a lot of damage that you can be doing for 2 energy, 240, right, max?
well,
Or 200?
well, I
I
was
think it's
gonna,
like 160 in standard and 200 in
well, I was thinking in expanded. I don't know. Do Wheezing and Galarian Wheezing are they technically different named Pokemon?
Oh, actually, yeah, so you could play in
You
8,
can get a full bench. You could play Eternatus VMAX and have even more,
oh, yeah.
or Parallel City, or you know something like that. Like I I think that this is theoretically like a really interesting deck in expanded where like you can play it as maybe even like a cool single prize deck. Because I will also say one of my favorite Weezings ever was the ability that like puts damage counters on basic Pokemon with an ability or something, and then you also deal a bunch of spread damage on top of it. So like, you know, maybe it's not actually that good and expanded, but I think it's a super cool concept.
I was gonna say we probably I think coughing is just coughing, there's no Galarian coughing.
Okay, but
It's
there is
just a
Team Rocket's
regular
coughing,
coughing. Yeah, there's Team Rocket's
so we have
coughing,
8 right
but
there.
I think but can you I actually don't know the answer to this. Can you play 4 Team Rocket's coughing and 4 regular coughing? Is that like a thing?
I mean, yeah, judges out there, hit us up, Justin, whomever might be listening. The way I understand naming is that Team Rocket's coughing is different than coughing, so they're not the same. So like you
I was
could
gonna
play a
say, like,
4/4
just
line.
the last time that we had owners Pokemon, I was, like, 6 years old and didn't play the game. So I
Yeah.
have no idea,
I mean,
right? So
I would say the closest comparisons are things like the Galarians or the Hisuians of like what do their
yeah.
names mean?
I'm
But
trying to think if there was a deck that had, like, both of those in it, both, like, Galarian and Hisuian or, like, a
uh
regular or something.
it's an
I
interesting question. But also it would also
yeah.
count cuz Gengar EX or like coughing if there's like a wheezing EX that ever comes out or that exists. Um in theory those are differently named Pokemon. You can have 4 wheezing EX and 4 wheezing in a deck. So,
Yeah.
uh
So, alright. Yeah,
interesting.
so all to you, and plus going back to the Team Rockets wheezing, the dark and colorless is just a Team Rockets energy, right? That's just one single attachment to do your big all out explosion.
Yeah. What's the next on your list here, Jake?
I will say the Crobat and Golbat in here are very interesting because if you do not know, a while ago, there were a Bats archetype. I think it was like 2014 or maybe
Okay.
a little earlier than that, where if you evolve your Zubat into a Golbat, you could put a couple damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then if you evolved Golbat into Crobat, you could put even more damage counters,
Hmm.
and it was pretty good. It was a pretty good archetype, and so it's coming back in glory of Team Rocket. Team Rocket's Golbat, well, the Zubat, I mean,
Zubat to Zubat. It's
it
fine.
yeah, Zubat's a Zubat. It's a basic Pokemon. Team Rocket's Golbat, 80 HP, stage 1, has the ability Sneaky Bite, where you can when you evolve this or bleh, start over. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So, very nice to get that spread damage in and, very reminiscent of what was it, the Greninja? Wasn't there was
There
it a
was
Greninja?
there
What was the
was
Rapid
a
Strike or whatever
there's an
era?
Inteleon that did
Yeah,
that
Inteleon.
once per
Yeah.
turn, but there was also the Galarian Zigzagoon that had the same
Yeah,
thing as it
Galarian
evolves.
Zigzagoon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is, pretty much copying that, and but Team Rocket's Crobat EX, they've kinda nerfed it by putting the Crobat as an EX, but it is a 310 HP stage 1 Pokemon that has the ability Bite About. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. And then with a dark attack, Assassin's Return 120 damage, you may put this Pokemon into your hand and discard all attached cards. So you can kind of get a looping effect if you have like these Crobats and putting like Mimikyus or different walls in your deck. You can put them in the active as you continuously loop Assassin's Return in a sense to keep getting those damage counters up.
Yeah, I think I don't know how this will technically evolve, but I feel like this is the perfect sort of combo piece with a wall style deck.
Mhm.
Especially if you can figure out a way to give your walls like free retreat or an easy way to retreat every turn. Because what you can do is exactly that, right? Like you evolve, you have like a 4-4-4 line of the Zubat, Golbat, Crobat. You just keep evolving them every turn. You never leave the Crobat EX on the field if you can avoid it. And then
Yeah.
just evolve when you're ready to hit, you pick it up and you just keep going. And I'm like, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
That is a it is pretty cool, especially when you have Team Rocket's Sneasel as well that has a 2 dark energy attack of doing 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage counter already on that Pokemon. So you can do a lot of setup damage and then go ahead and clean up with the Team Rocket's Sneasel right there. That nice little 80 HP dark basic Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like how you would. So if they have 10 damage, then you just do 20. So it's basically like
Yeah, it's like a
triple the
20
number of damage
times.
counters.
Yeah.
So if they have
You just
10, then you do 200, so that's 300. So it's just
yeah.
that's maybe a better way. If you're planning on playing this deck, just think about it like whatever the number is there, triple it. That's what they'll be after this attack.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, and, the GOAT Akira Gawa making the illustration for the Golbat is very, very nice, I will say. But Pokemon aren't the only thing that are exciting about this set. I think the trainers maybe made more noise than the, Pokemon did. Sean, we have Team Rocket's Great Ball here, not the Pokemon or not the Pokeball that I called, but it is still an interesting one. Read it to me. I don't think you've read it yet. Read it to me.
I will read it to you. If heads, flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for an evolution Team Rockets Pokemon. Reveal it, put it into your hand. If tails, search your deck for a basic Team Rockets Pokemon. Yada yada. Um, Jake, I want to hold up a picture of capturing aroma
Yeah,
and
capturing aroma.
and be
Yeah.
like, I corporate needs to tell me the difference between these two pictures. Uh,
And it's Pam from The Office that's
yes.
like, "These are the same."
These, I mean, they are the same, except this is worse. It's only for Team Rocket. So, like, okay,
Yeah, so I mean, like,
it's fine.
it's once again, it's really interesting seeing these cards that are, like, exclusive to Team Rocket, right? Like, you
Yeah.
wouldn't play this in any other deck. The supporter finder item only searches for Team Rocket stuff, so, like, it's hard to do it otherwise. I think the Spadops is only Team Rocket's Pokemon as well.
Yeah, probably. All the Team Rocket stuff
I
seems to be very Team Rockets.
Yeah, like, it's they specifically it's like Rapid Strike and Single Strike, right, when that came out? They specifically want an archetype to happen, and they've built all these pieces for that archetype in a sense. So it's kind of really interesting to see, but yeah, Team Rocket's Great Ball, very good if you're playing any sort of Team Rocket deck, but Team Rocket's Venture Bomb is good for just more than just Team Rocket's deck. Flip a coin. If heads, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, but if it's tails, put 2 damage counters on your active Pokemon. Guess what card doesn't care about putting damage counters on their own active Pokemon, Sean? It's
Monkey
my favorite
Dory.
card of the
Monkey
format.
Dory.
Monkey Dory. That's exactly right. So, Monkey Dory is now better than ever. I feel like it was already in so many decks, but now why don't we slide in more Monkey Dories, right? Because you can put 2 damage counters pretty much guaranteed,
Yeah.
so long as you have the Monkey Dory energy combo. Guaranteed put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Who cares about the coin flip? It's just a coin flip. Just opt to say, "You know what? I'll put it on my Pokemon. Let's skip the coin flip," right?
Jake,
No, you legally
this
can't do that. I
no.
don't think that's allowed.
Jake, this card is absolutely broken. I
This
genuinely
card's
believe
pretty
that.
good.
I
Now,
didn't
I will say I have made an absurd reaction to the card. I don't know how good it is, but it's pretty good, I will say. I just don't know, like, how many deck slots it, like, fits in a lot of, like, Monkey Dory type decks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it does require you to play specifically like Monkey Dory, in order to really
Yeah,
get the
like,
full value out of it.
in Gardevoir, for instance, I feel like you probably played in Gardevoir, right? Because it's an easier way to build damage counters on the Drifloon
Yep.
or the Screamtail, right? To be able to do extra damage. So it can fit in there, but how many copies do you put it at? Right? Because it's already like an interesting deck list, right?
I
So
think that
I don't know.
there's a part of me that like I think that this card might go in. Look, if I'm playing a deck that I want to be a donk deck, I'm playing four
Oh yeah,
copies of
Donk deck.
this, and I
Yeah.
am just
Donk deck for sure.
I'm going ham, just getting through my deck to try to find as many of these as possible. Like, there's a part of me that really does think like this makes Hop Zacian better?
Sure,
I just
maybe.
or like I'm trying to think of like a double Monkey Dory Frostlass item lock deck with Badu.
Yeah, just any deck that plays Monkey Dory
Yeah.
should think about this card, at least. I don't
So
know if Frostless would work because you're already putting so many damage counters on your Pokemon that you need to move from
that's
that you need to
true.
move with Monkey Dory that, like, can you afford to do more, if you flip tails? I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but I guess the point here is that like flipping heads, if you get a couple of these in a turn, especially early game, flipping a few heads on this is maybe the difference between your opponent getting a turn and not. And so, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, especially now that we have cards like Petulant and the Poison Package. I'm like, ugh, I'm seeing the donk decks just getting so much, and I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know if this is good.
they officially have 2 more damage counter potential for a Dunk if you only have 1
Yeah.
Pokemon in going second, but it'll be interesting to see how it develops when the Glory of Team Rocket releases later this month. But they revealed also 2 supporter cards
Mhm.
in here. One being Team Rocket's Petrol, and it's pretty generic, pretty basic. Just search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. It's basically Team Rocket's Skyla.
No, except it's worse. Skyla gets you
What?
any
How's it
card.
worse?
Skyla, I believe, says search your deck for a card, put it into your hand.
No, it's
Is it a
just a
trainer?
trainer card. Yeah.
Am I losing it? I feel like
I'm
Skyla was like because you can only get one card. I thought it was like you can go get any
Yeah,
card.
search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, put
Okay.
it in your hand.
You know
Yeah.
what? Fair enough. It's just Skyla. It's actually
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not even Skyla for it's Skyla that you can search with that Team Rocket
yeah,
card.
it's technically better than Skyla because
Yeah.
In the
True.
Team Rocket deck, it's
Yeah.
only better in the Team Rocket deck, but it's technically better than Skyla in the Team Rocket deck because you have another out to find this to find whatever trainer card you want,
I'm trying to think of
So
like what this because I'm like, okay, let's say I'm playing uh
find
this
Team
Team
Rocket's
Rocket
Venture
deck.
Bomb to Donk.
I mean, yeah, I can play a card to get a card to get a different card to maybe
Yeah.
get two counters. I mean, it's interesting. I guess you have like redundancy in terms of consistency of like, oh, I can search for the supporter to go get the one trainer I need. I'm just trying to think about like we have Arvin in format, which is really good. We even have things like Colress Tenacity, which can get you any energy plus a stadium, which like Team Rocket's energy is really, really good in the deck.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have a stadium for Team Rocket yet, but I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure we'll get some sort of Team Rocket's base or whatever.
so I do think about this card, and I think to myself, like, okay, thinking about all of the options and so for supporters, like supporters, I feel like nowadays are crazy strong. Like you can find basically anything on any
Yeah,
turn.
just wait until we talk about this next supporter.
Okay, okay, let's go to the next one. Let's rock and roll, Jake. We got,
This next supporter, Sean, do you remember Bridget
yes, I have Bridget in an expanded
from
deck.
yeah, in the X and Y format? So, Bridget was also in an era where you could play a supporter going first, right?
Hmm.
That rule is no longer in the Pokemon trading card game. You cannot play a supporter going first. But Team Rocket's Proton basically has a Bridget effect, right? Search your deck for up to 3 basic Team Rockets Pokemon, reveal them, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck. They're basic Pokemon, so it's basically like putting them on the bench, right? Essentially, as what Bridget did. And it's very strong, right? We talked about some basics in here that are very good. And you talk about the Spadops deck.
Yep.
I'm
You got Mewtwo.
forgetting the name. Tarantula. Yeah, the Mewtwo. Talk about the Articuno,
Yep.
right? The Zubats, things like that, right? So there is a lot of flexibility in there. And sometimes, especially, going second, this is a pretty good turn one supporter. Guess what? If you go first, you can play this card. So that's crazy. So setups on turn one, I feel like this, especially when you have an item card that
That can
searches
search
for
it.
a Team
Yes.
Rocket supporter, you now have 8 outs
Yep.
on your first turn to find a
Three
card
basics.
that says, yeah, that gets 3 basics Team Rockets Pokemon. Wow, this deck is going to be interesting. I
I think
think.
yeah, I agree with you. The consistency of this deck looks really strong right now because
Yeah, choosing first is great as a basic deck now.
yeah. And like you can play only two of these Team Rockets Protons, but then also play four of those cards that let you search for a supporter, and then like a more moderate package of Pokemon search and
Mhm.
still feel like really confident that you're gonna find anything. I was like, I think about decks like this too, like all these setup decks, like hops decks, even ends a little bit, feel like you need to get all of your basics out really quickly. And
Yeah,
so,
especially ends
yeah.
when your Darumakas are 80 HP.
So decks
You
like that,
have to get Trolley.
yeah, oh, exactly. I was gonna. It's like so decks like that. You feel like you're forced to play Trolley, just because like that turn one Arvin for Trolley, But like now with this card, like okay, Team Rocket can play any other ace spec that they want, right? And like that's
Yeah.
good. That's gonna be good.
Yeah, I'm starting to get really high hopes on this Team Rocket deck.
I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be very
I
good.
I definitely think it's going to be better than any of the decks that we got in Journey Together.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of which, a little bit, Jake, you wanted to touch just give it a little touch on what is happening in Japan right now.
Mhm.
I believe in a heat wave arena style format.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the first tournament showcasing the Heat Wave Arena cards, the Champions League Miyagi. Is 5,000 player tournament, first of all, which is crazy. All of these Champions League tournaments are super cool. They are best of one, so it's a little interesting in that aspect. And if you ended up watching the live stream or like Azul restreaming the live stream, and if you haven't, I highly recommend because even though these decks didn't make top 16 and they're not on Limitless, there were some really, really cool decks that came out of that tournament, including a Marnie's Grimmsnarl or EX deck that was really cool to watch, and then also a Garchomp EX
The
deck.
new
Is it
Cynthia's
Cynthia's
Garchomp, yeah.
Garchomp? Yeah, Cynthia's Garchomp and Roserade deck that came out. So definitely go check out those decks. You could probably figure out the exact 60 just because of the prize card cam that they show and
Mhm.
then the first deck search, right? Like I've done that before. I've like watched a video in 20 or 0.25 speed to write down every single card that's in the deck before it releases so I could play it that night on PTCGL or something like that. But anyways, the last Champions League tournament, I think we talked about it a little bit not too long ago, was dominated by wall decks,
Mhm.
right? These decks that run melodic, these decks that run giraffe or
Farigiraf.
for Farigiraf, yeah. Oh man, it's a
I'm
long
gonna get
day.
the name
And then
name right this time.
and then Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon as well, like these different wall archetypes. So it was really curious to see this top 16 in Miyagi be basically completely different. Are you showing Miyagi, by the way,
Yeah, yeah, I have the
on
top
screen?
16, like, the sort of list, but there's only one of
Yeah.
the wall decks in there.
Yeah. So the statistics for the top 16, Dragapult was the most populous deck at 5 out of this top 16. Second place was a tie of 4 between Gardevoir and Raging Bolt. I think 2 decks that a lot of people are kind of like, or at least riding off in Journey Together format out here in the West. And then there was one deck each of Terra Box, Frostlass Monkey Dory, and Melodic Walls, as you're talking about. So really interesting top 16, in my opinion. I think that this is a pretty wild development going back to kind of this. But the Dragapult deck, if we want to look at that real quick, Dragapult Dusknoir, honestly, it's not too much different at all. There's not really any cards that have been gained in this from Heatwave Arena or anything, or really even Journey Together. I think as
No,
well,
yeah.
running a Sparkling Crystal Arvin kind of package. I think the only thing that's really changed within this deck is maybe the one of Tatsugiri in there to help you find supporter cards, right? Which
Yeah.
works out very well when you talk about Arvin decks, having to find the Arvin, get those guys out on the field through like Buddy Buddy Poffin or find a Sparkling Crystal rescue board, any of that sort. But was also Dusknor as well.
Yeah, it's kinda interesting just to see, like, how little impact some of the new sets have made on that
Mhm.
list, and, like, yeah, I'm going down now as well to the Gardevoir list, the highest one up in Miyagi, I think it was 5th place or something like that.
Or
Um,
the highest Gardevoir was second place. There were 4 within the top
yeah,
7. So
the
a
highest up
pretty
that had the
dominant deck, I
list.
feel like.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
highest up that has a list on Limitless at least is, like,
is second. Yeah,
yeah, like,
the
you look
runner
at
up.
this and you're just sorta like, "Okay, this is pretty standard Gardevoir right now."
Mhm.
Biggest difference really is you have, obviously, the new Lily's Clefairy, you have lost the Brilliant Blender after, like, rotation, it's definitely the way you wanna play Gardevoir, but the only new card really is that Shaman that we mentioned that's in Heatwave Arena, which is just a replacement for, um, the loss of Manaphy. So
Yeah, so great protection effect on there. And it's really curious as well. I think we talked about this kind of list last week
mhm,
on here with the Explorer's Guidance and stuff. Really interesting to see a list like this and then going into the second place list, right? They're playing Secret Box right in there, not the Brilliant Blender. And instead of Explorer's Guidance, they're playing Morty's Conviction in here. So
oh,
Gardevoir
yeah.
not only being insane, like pretty good, I feel like, in the upcoming formats and still a deck that people need to worry about, it's got plenty of different ways to play it and adjust in the meta, right? The big thing about this secret box version of the deck is there's no Drifloon in here, I
Mm.
think, even though you're still playing 3 Bravery Charm, which is kind of interesting. I think a lot of people would think, but let me tell you how crazy Bravery Charm Budu is. right? Like a nice 80 HP Budu hitting you in the active, and you can't do something like Monkey Dory to it. So
Yeah.
it forces you to go in with one of your bigger hitting guys
Yeah.
and to take that first knockout that way and then Gardevoir can respond with a big knockout of their own from like Screamtail or Lily's Clefairy EX,
Hmm.
right? I think because Raging Bolt was super popular within at least the top tables of here, Gardevoir naturally was a great option and a great counter pick in there because Lily's Clefairy EX just bumps the Raging Bolt because of that weakness on there.
Yeah, that's very true. That's really interesting because it's like, yeah, now all of a sudden your Screamtail can just knock it out, right? Easy, no
Yeah.
problem. So,
Even if the Raging Bull does have a bravery charm on it or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's a cool list, and without any easy like tool removal, like you have Jamming Tower, but outside of that, we don't have Lost Vacuum anymore after rotation, so those Bravery Charms are a little stickier, it feels like.
Mhm.
So you'll have less situations where an opponent can like Lost Vacuum the Bravery Charm, knock something out, like take an extra prize. Basically, they're gonna have to work a little harder for that.
I will say the, Walls deck Melodic for Rigorath is pretty much the same as what we talked about in the previous episode last week, and then the Raging Bolt decks are pretty much the same as well as what you would consider to be a Raging Bolt deck. I think the only thing is, like, they play, Koraidon from Surging Sparks, right? And maybe a baby Raging Bolt as well from Stellar Crown, to try to battle some of the one prize stuff. There was, though, a Frostlass Monkey Dory deck, Sean. That's
Okay,
pretty cool. I like
say more.
Frostlass a lot.
um,
Yeah, so the new card in here was Shaman in the Heatwave Arena, and makes sense, right? You have a lot of little bodies if you look at this deck list, with Frostlass being 90 HP, Monkey Dory being 110, right? And if you have a Budu, that's another 30
yeah.
right there. So the other thing that was added in this deck is a Maractus. So Maractus from Journey Together, if you do not know, 110 HP grass type Pokemon has the ability exploding needles if this Pokemon's in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack. Put 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So one of those nice effects on there. And then with Corner, is a 1 energy 20 damage attack that doesn't allow the defending Pokemon to retreat. So kind of similar to that Mawile, except now in Journey Together, you have a better option of just putting damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. So very interesting to see that kind of development in this deck.
Yeah, the Maractus I think is really strong in this deck. I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, I am not seeing like any switch cards in any of the decks that we reviewed. No jet
No.
energies, no surfers. So you're just kind of sat there like, if you can trap something in the Maractus with that has like, not that doesn't have a good attack, especially like maybe you trap the Fezandipity in the active.
Mhm.
That's really annoying because all of a sudden, then every turn, Fez is going to take 1 damage between turns from Frostlass, 20 from the Maractus, and then everything else on the field is just going to build up damage. So that's really good. I didn't like the ability on the Maractus is clever, but I really think the corner is the thing that probably is the big piece here. That's
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, especially when you're talking about an Iono unfair stamp kind of deck, the Frostlass is very curious for all these abilities that are running around on the field. And like you said, lack of switches. I feel like we keep talking about lack of switches in the format on this podcast. People are not playing switches.
No.
A card that is always in standard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, there is Petulant, so like, if you try to bring this to your locals, like some version of this, right now, people might still be playing around with the End Zoroark, and that will feel bad with the Maractus because they'll just Petulant out of it. But
Yeah.
not the craziest thing in the world. You still might have a fighting chance between Budu and Frostlass, but um, definitely interesting to see this deck in action. So, Jake, before we go, so that's really like the main list that we saw from Miyagi. Obviously, this is like a whole sort of half set ahead of where we're at now.
Yeah.
Um, but it is interesting to see like there's not a lot of like Heatwave Arena, at least in the top 16. of Miyagi is not having a huge impact. But we will be getting not just Heatwave Arena, but also all of the Team Rocket stuff bundled together. So I fully expect the Team Rocket set, especially, to have a pretty major impact on the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's feeling pretty similar to Journey Together, to where nothing's really really setting a mark
Yeah,
on the format. And that's just kind of how it is sometimes.
just shows you everything that we did over the last like 2 years is just so pushed, Jake. It's
Yeah.
just the design team really outdid themselves with Raging Bolt and Dragapult. So
Yeah, who would have thought that Dragapult would have been a medium deck? I don't know. Did we say that Dragapult was going to be fine? I feel like
I don't remember
I
what
feel
we
like I'm
said.
gonna get called out in the Discord, which you can join the Discord in the link or show notes below. I feel like probably somebody's gonna have to look back to the set review that we did. What set is Dragapult from?
Whatever the
Which one
fall
is it?
set. I think it's the fall set from this last year, right? Not that long
Was it
ago.
was it Stellar
The one
Crown?
before, I think, yeah, it might have been Stellar Crown or the one before that, but like no, the one before Stellar Crown, I guess, because I didn't open any Stellar Crown, but whatever one came out, maybe actually like late spring, early summer last year.
Whichever one it was, I feel like somebody could go back and look at the episode for our set review and call call me out and say, "Jake, you said this card was gonna suck. You were wrong." Because I feel like I had a take to where Prismatic Evolutions. No, wait,
No,
what?
that was the reprint.
Prismatic Evolutions?
That they
Oh
reprinted
boy,
it.
I'm losing it. Um,
Paldea
where I
evolved.
probably oh, maybe it was Paldea Evolved. I don't know why I can't find it on TCG Player. Anyways, I'll finish my point. Where I was like, Dragapult VMAX was really, really good, but we're in a different format and it's a little bit different now. So I don't know. It's got two different kinds of energy that it needs. So I think it's probably okay.
Look,
But
I
no,
will say
Dragapult's really good.
it is very. I will say this though, Jake. Dragapult was not a great deck until Reggie Drago got pushed out of the format. Because before
Oh
that,
yeah.
the only like Reggie Drago was the good deck, and Dragapult was a supporting cast member. So
Yeah.
I will say, give us a little credit. If you did say that, like it's a good attack, but it didn't come into its own for at least 6 months or so. So
That's it. We're never wrong here on this podcast,
broken
except
clock is
trying to
right
figure
twice a
out
day.
yeah, except when trying to figure out what set Dragapult EX was from, because it's just a card that exists. Who needs to know that part? But anyway, Sean, is there anything else you need to talk about in this episode?
Minor thing actually. I just thought about it while you started the recording, which was s- rotation is happening this Friday.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I still have to figure out what card to burn. I am looking for suggestions. I don't immediately I don't think this last rotation featured any cards that I was particularly angry about. But I mean, some people might say Snorlax, Blocklax.
I bet some people say Radiant Greninja.
I mean, Radiant Greninja was
I don't.
it's really good. I wasn't
I
annoyed by it, but
personally don't think
it's a
that.
little too strong. I would agree that I think the card was really pushed from a design perspective.
This is definitely the best card of like the
The
last 2
whole
years.
era, yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
whole
whole
era.
time that it was around. Yeah.
Um, but just give us a shout in the Discord. But Jake, for all the rotating cards, what card or two will you miss the most?
I will miss Radiant Greninja
Yeah.
actually. I like Radiant Greninja. I thought it was cool. Thought it was fun. I think it helped make decks more consistent in a
Hmm.
sense. With that draw too, right? And I played a couple different decks that had great synergy with Radiant Greninja, right? With like Chin Pao,
Hmm.
you know, does not mind the energies in the discard pile. Gardevoir, I played and loved that card in Gardevoir Goldango. Love that card in Goldango. So I think that's what I'm gonna miss the most in rotation, because and also Refinement Curlia.
I mean, yeah, very specific, but yeah. Um, I think for me, it's going to be the whole Lost Box engine
Oh yeah, I am gonna miss Lost Box. Yeah,
because
it was cool.
it was a great single prize deck, and I also think if you really go back and look through the whole time that it was in format, some form of Lost Box was always relevant. And as an engine, I feel like it enabled a lot of different attackers. Like you could build really weird decks just by having Comfy, Colress, Mirage Gate. Like you don't
Yeah.
need the full like Sableye, Cram, or whatever. Like you could just run those three and still build like a weird deck that just needs lots of different energy types.
Mhm.
So that for me was I think the one that like I could see them. The Pokemon Company likes to repeat themes, and I could see that being a theme that they repeat in like 5 or 10 years in some form.
Yeah. And we'll still be doing the podcast in
Oh
5 to
God,
10
yeah,
years. Yes.
maybe.
Yeah, you don't joke about that. We're going forever. We're going forever. As long as this card game's around, I'm in. Or until I'm not around anymore. But
Jesus,
so whoa,
Jake.
that's a long time. Long time, long time, long time. Anyways, we should probably wrap up the episode before we get banned off Spotify and YouTube. But I'm Jake. That's Sean. Thank you so much for listening to the Metapod podcast. We'll see you next week. We'll figure out. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. Maybe post rotation decks, something.
Again, more. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see. We'll find something. It's a slow time out here, pre-rotation.